this video for protesters, youngsters and adults that go out there protesting on the streets. And I'm talking from experience because I did it for 6 years, and all my videos, if you look back at the history, like 9 years ago now, I've kept all the videos there so you can see my evolution. I had my spiritual awakening when I was 17 years old in 1997, and it was a spiritual awakening. I'm not going to go into details now. And then about 6 months later, I had the awakening of the corruption in the world. So obviously years went by, blah, 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 lots of research, da, 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 da. I started getting itchy feet. I wanted, knowing all this stuff and not doing anything about it, it was frustrating me. So I was trying to think, what can I do? What can I do? Protesting. So I got on Facebook and I started to find out where protests were, and I wanted to find a crowd like me that I could go to protest with, and I found a crowd and they welcomed me with open arms. It was brilliant. And it was funny because my second protest, the first one was Crude Awakening. I went on my own. Oh, there's so many stories I could tell you, but I'm going to stick to this. And I found them, and remember now, I went to the protest, and it's funny because one of the guys recognised me from the picture and called me over, and I could have been anywhere, but I found them. And that day there was the student protest going on, but our lot was a bit different. We weren't like normal sort of going along the streets holding up banners and stuff. We would find a different road to block. We were like the truth movement crowd, right? We decided to block off Whitehall and we'd sit there. Anyway, lots of wonderful stories, and it's all good fun, but it took me 6 years to realise that protest does nothing. It does nothing. When has ever a protest changed anything? We're just playing into their game. We're not changing anything. And it took me 6 years to realise, and here's a typical saying now, if you want to change the world, start with yourself. You don't have to protest. You don't have to have wars to change the world. To change the world, we could do it street by street. All you have to do is just not comply with the system. I started protesting around the same time as Occupy Wall Street. Do you remember? Occupy the Stock Exchange, and it was going on around the world. And we occupied St. Paul's. And then there was the Anonymous lot and Black Bloc and Love Police, Charlie Veitch. I would go along to all these things, and in my heart I was there for good intentions, but as I went to more and more of them, and as I spent a lot of time at Occupy, I started to see the corruption within it. Occupy Wall Street was a psyop. It was created. I'm not going to go right into details, but it was completely orchestrated. People that were actually in charge of it, they took a lot of money, and also when you went into the meetings, people that from outside these think tanks and these groups, when they wanted to make a suggestion, they were never heard because it was all orchestrated, basically. It was all a psyop. There's things called think tanks out there. There's these activist groups that are created by the system, funded and created by the system, that go to these protests to start trouble. So when you're sitting there with your flag and you're blocking stuff off, you're wasting your energy, in the sense that it causes a lot of aggression. Like Black Bloc, there'd always be punch-ups and trouble with the police, and it's a power game. They're taking our energy, we're giving our energy, so all these elites and these things, as high as it goes, as deep as it goes, they're laughing at us. Oh, the sheep, look at them. So when you're young and you're protesting and think you're doing some good for the world, it's not. You're still being played. And I know this because I'm talking from experience. If you really want to change the system, you have to start with yourself and move away from the system. Anyway, I love you guys.